Hello, welcome back to The Metal Hunter. My name is Luke, and today I'm going to be talking about death. Yesterday was Chuck Schuldiner's birthday. He was born on May 13th, 1967, so I thought it was a good excuse to celebrate his life and also talk about my death collection and talk about the impact that that band and Chuck himself has had on my life. I'm also going to do a bit of a ranking of the albums. I don't know how that's going to go, but I'm going to do it anyway. In the background, we've got Control Denied playing The Fragile Art of Existence. This is the only album that's been released from this band. This is Chuck Schuldiner's other band other than Death, and it is the last official musical release that Chuck Schuldiner had put out before his passing on December 13th, 2001. Just before we do get into the video, I am trying to get to 10,000 subscribers, so if you can help me out, make sure that you subscribe. Follow me on social media. I'm at The Metal Hunter on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Also, this list, and especially the ranking part, that's completely biased. It's just my list. It's not, I haven't done it from like anyone else's point of view. It's just the way that I feel about the band and the way I feel about the albums. I actually don't think that they released a bad album, so that's probably why it's so impossible for me to rank these albums. But I'm going to try and do it, go through the collection and then just do it off the top of my head. So hopefully you guys agree, and if you don't, let me know down in the comments. But be constructive with it. I don't like assholes just yelling at me. So for those of you who don't know who Death are, I grabbed a screen grab from Wikipedia, which is where I like to grab all my shit from. Death was an American death metal band from Orlando, Florida, founded in 1983 by guitarist and vocalist Chuck Schuldiner. They actually started out under the moniker of Mantis and changed their name to Death in 1984. Death is considered to be among the most influential bands in heavy metal and a pioneering force in the extreme metal subgenre of death metal. Their debut album, Scream Bloody Gore, has been widely regarded as the first death metal record, although there is some dispute to the claim, as Possessed's debut album, Seven Churches, and Necrophagia's album, Season of the Dead, were released before. Now, I actually think that Scream Bloody Gore was closer to the straightforward death metal. I think that Possessed was more of a thrash metal album. And Necrophagia might even have a claim for it, but I guess they didn't get as much acclaim as Death did. Now, Death had a revolving lineup, with Schuldiner being the sole consistent member. The group style also progressed from the raw sound on its first two albums to a more sophisticated one in the later stage of the career. The band ceased to exist after Schuldiner died in December of 2001, but remains an enduring influence on heavy metal. And I actually agree with all of that. I think that they're one of the most important bands in the history of music, in heavy metal, death metal, whatever genre you want to talk about. I think that Chuck Schuldiner, although there's been some interesting things come out on the documentary came out a couple of years ago, him being a little bit of a difficult individual to work with, I think that his ability to write songs and to write lyrics and create some of the most impressive music of all time cannot be understated, cannot be overstated, I should say. He is absolutely incredible, and I am really happy to show you my collection. So obviously I'll show you, I've got Control Denied, that's the 1998 version. I haven't got the 1999 version. This is a German press. I don't have it on vinyl, and I also don't have the re-release. I probably should get onto that, but I am a lazy fuckhead, so that's why that's there. So I'll go through vinyl first, then I'll go through the CDs, and then I'll rank them. Okay, so first up we've got Scream Bloody Gore, which came out in 87. Originally came out on Combat Records. This is a repress from a couple of years ago. I have spoken about this pressing a couple of times on my channel. This is from Relapse Records. Now, Relapse Records actually own the rights to 5 out of the 6 albums, so they have repressed and re-released them a couple of times. There's some box sets out there. There's some amazing pieces of vinyl. The great thing is that they're really celebrating the history of Death. So we've got some lovely liner notes, some stories from different members of the band and people that were fans of the band, and some great photos of the members. So absolutely crushing album. Some of the most vicious vocals that Schuldiner's ever produced have been on this one. So that one's their first album. Their second album is Leprosy. So all of these are represses. I've got no original presses, unfortunately, because they are quite expensive and quite hard to come by. So once again, this is the repress from Relapse Records. Nice liner note in there. Sorry, liner notes and photos. I think this is this the one? There's one that actually has a letter from Max Cavalera in it, which is very cool. Very good read to get into. This one is just on a black press. A couple of these have really nice, like, kind of splatter presses, and I've got like a picture disc and shit like that as well. Now, I've only got one pressing from each album on vinyl. This is something that I am going to change very shortly. It's something that I'm going to start collecting and be a little bit more aggressive with, just because I absolutely love the albums, and they're one of my favorite bands of all time. So it's fucking awesome artwork on the back there. Next up, their third album, which is Spiritual Healing, which is funny because this guy kind of looks like the dude that's on TV at the moment screaming at COVID, which is hilarious. Now, from memory, okay, so this once again is a repress from Relapse Records. Now, this is on a red vinyl. Some photos from the time. Now, I think this is the album. This is the album that had yes. So this one had Terry Butler and James Murphy on it. So, as I said in my intro, there was a revolving door of musicians, and Chuck Schuldiner had this incredible ability just to find the best people on their instrument at the time. And this is on a beautiful red pressing. Absolutely crushing. Sounds fucking fantastic on vinyl. And the fact that he got James Murphy to play on guitar is amazing. James Murphy's one of my favorite guitarists. The amount of work that he's done with some of the best bands on the planet is fucking awesome. And I absolutely love the artwork of this album. Classic. And then their fourth album, which is Human. And this one is a back on black repress from like 2007, I think. Yes, 2007, licensed from Century Media, or licensed through Century Media. This was before Relapse Records stepped in, and this is on a nice see-through red splatter. I've spoken about Back on Black before. I'm not a huge fan of them, and this doesn't sound the best. I am going to be trying to track down a Relapse Records repress. This one does have the gatefold. You'll find that a lot of the Back on Black stuff, especially in the 2000s, were basically facsimiles of the original. And basically they just had the same layout and everything like that, but some of the colors are a little bit different. And the sound quality isn't as good as the originals. Okay, and next up we have Individual Thought Patterns. This has got like a nice embossed kind of logo on there. Once again, it's through Relapse Records. Now this is a picture disc. I've spoken about picture discs before. They're not my favorite things in the world, but I bought this because the only other option was the black vinyl, and I think this was only $2 extra. Once again, some amazing liner notes inside, including photos, all the lyrics, and some letters from different members, including Gene Hoglan. Now, this album had Ralph Santola, who went on to be in... No, it didn't. Sorry. Ralph toured the album. So we had Andy LaRocque on guitars, Gene Hoglan on drums, and Steve DiGiorgio on bass. So for those of you in the know, they're basically three of the most incredibly talented players within any music genre, especially Steve DiGiorgio. Actually, especially all of them. There's not even especially. Andy LaRocque, obviously, of King Diamond fame. Can't even get this fucking thing back in there. I'll be back with you in a second and you'll get my undivided attention. Andy LaRocque, obviously, of King Diamond fame, brought quite a flashy style of guitar to this album. There we go, Individual Thought Patterns. Next up, we have... Now, this was considered as their major label album. So this one came out on Roadrunner Records, and it was Symbolic. This is the only one that Relapse Records doesn't have any claim to. This one was repressed by Metal Blade Records, licensed through Roadrunner, and this one's on a nice creamy white vinyl. Now, the unfortunate thing about that is it means that there's not really like a deep dive into the album itself. So the lyric sheet is basically just a remake of the original lyric sheet. So we don't have all those awesome photos and shit like that. So we've got Bobby Colble on guitars, Gene Hoglan on drums, and then Kelly Conlon on bass on that one. Now, from what I understand, I think Bobby has continued the Death to All tours that have been happening in Europe. And I really, really want to see them. I really hope that, you know, somehow they get to Australia, or I happen to be over in Europe at a festival while they're playing, because that would be a dream come true. Obviously, a dream come true would be watching Chuck Schuldiner actually play these songs, but, you know, unfortunately, that's the way that the cookie crumbles. And the last album that I have on vinyl by Death is The Sound of Perseverance. This, once again, is a repress from Relapse Records. This is the only one that came out on a double LP gatefold, or at least the only one that I own. All of these, I'm pretty sure, are 180 grams, so they sound really fucking solid. I had that poster up on my wall when I was a young lad. And this one has the fucking awesome... This one here as well is quite a nice photo of Chuck. I always thought that Chuck was a pretty good looking bloke, so having a poster up on the wall was quite nice. And on this one we had Shannon Ham on guitar, Scott Clendenin on bass, and Richard Christie on drums. Now, Richard Christie obviously is another one of those people who is basically like royalty within the music community. And Richard Christie also plays drums on the Control Denied album that you can hear in the background, along with Chuck on guitar. I can't remember the vocalist's name for the life of me. I'll just have a quick look. The vocalist was Shannon Ham played guitar. Tim Amar was on vocals, and we had Steve DiGiorgio back on bass. Okay, so that's the vinyl section out of the way. So I'll just pop these back into order, so that I know what the fuck I am going to be doing. Okay, now the CDs, I've got quite a few of them, so I hope you bear with me. We've got Scream Bloody Gore. Now, I don't own an original copy of this one. This one is a Icarus Records from, I think this was a Russian boot, maybe. Could be. Oh no, this is a Spanish boot. But it says that it's under license, so I might be wrong. So it's under license through Century Media Records. It sounds fucking crisp as shit. So, and it's got a weird kind of disc on the inside. Then I've got the Relapse Records slip disc, or slipcase, I should say. So this one actually has 2 discs in it. So unfortunately, I missed out on the 3 or 4 disc deluxe version. So the album is remastered, and then on the second disc it is Scream Bloody Gore, the original Florida session, and then basically some rehearsals and things like that. Now, the wonderful thing about the Death represses is they've done this amazing thing where they put the logo. I love bold logos and bold like spines. I think that is quality, and then they kind of just sits like that. So the Icarus one, this one here, is probably the closest that I'm going to get to a first pressing of Scream Bloody Gore. This one came out in 2006, so I mean many years after the original came out. Okay, next up we have Leprosy. Now this one is an original combat pressing. I got this recently. It's like 4 years ago. That's recently. Off eBay, I think it was, or maybe a Facebook seller, maybe. But it sounds amazing. I've also got the slipcover Relapse Records pressing. Once again, remastered album on disc 1, and then disc 2 is rehearsals. So you can see the track listing there. Next up we have, what have we got? 1, 2, 3. Spiritual Healing. So we've got Spiritual Healing there. This one is a original press from 1990. I got this along with the Leprosy album in the same sale. Both of the cases were beat to shit, but I was able to replace them and it came out really well. This is a 1999 Century Media repress. So it's got this very cool disc. So I absolutely love the fucking shit out of that album artwork. And then finally for Spiritual Healing, we've got the slipcase. Once again, disc 1, Spiritual Healing remastered. Disc 2 is Spiritual Healing rehearsals, and then studio instrumentals and joke and jam tracks. So jam-packed full of amazing material. And I'm not the biggest fan of like slip covers, but you know, you can put them up on the shelves and look at that album artwork all day long. And the great thing is these are actually like embossed and they're kind of raised, so you can actually, when you put your hand across there, you can feel the raised face and the raised logo and shit like that. Next up we have 1, 2, 3, 4 copies of that album. So we have, what do we got? Okay, so this is the first one that I got. So it's Human. This one's through Relativity, and this is an original from 1991. I've owned this for 20 years now. 20 years? Something like that. It's been a very, very long time. It's one of the first albums I ever bought. It does have a promo clip through it, which is very unfortunate, but whatever. Other than that, it is in fairly good condition. I mean, considering how fucking much I flogged it. Next up we have, I believe this is the US pressing from the original 1991. So this is through Relativity and RC Records. So it's got a similar disc on there, but it doesn't actually go all the way to the middle like the other one does. And then we've got the 1998 Century Media Records repressing. Here we go. Now, there's nothing special really about this one. Oh, actually, yeah. There's a bunch of liner notes in these ones as well. I haven't read through them. I really should, but because I'm obsessed with Death, the band as well. And finally, of course, I've got the Relapse Records slipcover. Now, this is probably one of my favorite like remasters of any album ever. The amount of clarity on the instruments is absolutely fucking devastating. So this one, once again, you've got disc 1, which is the remastered version of the album, and then disc 2 is basic instrumental tracks, and then demos from 1991 in March. So very, very cool. Once again, it's got that really nice embossed, actually it's only the logo that's got the raised kind of part. Next up, we've got Individual Thought Patterns, which I own 3 of. So we've got I don't actually own an original jewel case version of this, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. So I've got the 1999 Century Media Records repress, which is pretty close to the original from what I can tell. Next up, we've got the 1999 repress. Now, this is one of my favorite pieces that I own of Death. It's actually folds out like so, and folds out, and the disc is in the middle there. It's very, very cool. So these were very limited, and I think that they did, I think the first 5 albums from memory, and they all came in this kind of like box kind of thing. I might be wrong about that, but I had a line on a couple of other albums in that style, but the dude ended up not wanting to sell it to me, which was a pain, but it is what it is. People want to keep their collection and shit like that. And then of course the slipcase repress from Relapse Records. Now this one is it's the original album remastered, and then we've got disc 2 is live in Germany, April 13th, 1993, and then a studio outtake of The Exorcist. This has one of my favorite songs by Death on it, The Philosopher. That is absolutely fucking God tier or Satan tier death metal to me. Okay, and then we've got 2 copies of Symbolic. So this is the 1995 original press on Roadrunner Records. And then we have the Roadrunner Records expanded edition. As I said before, this is the only one that isn't owned by Relapse Records. So Roadrunner actually put it out themselves. Once again, I mean, it's pretty much like the original pressing. There's not a great deal of detail that's gone into it. Other than, I mean, there are some liner notes and things like that, but it's not as flashy as what Relapse have been doing. I actually really know a lot of people think that they're just cashing in, and maybe they are, but I think that they are also caring a lot about the legacy that Chuck has left. I really hope that they get a chance to re-release Symbolic as well and maybe remaster it. And the last official album that I've got from these guys is The Sound of Perseverance from 1998, and that's an original. Once again, something that I just haven't picked up from Relapse Records is a repress on the CD. I do want to get the remastered version of it. I think that it probably sounds fucking amazing. There are so many amazing tracks on this album: Spirit Crusher, Flesh and the Power It Holds, Bite the Pain, Painkiller, the cover of Judas Priest. This is a bit of a weird thing. I actually heard Painkiller by Death before I heard Painkiller by Judas Priest. So I was surprised when I heard it. I was like, holy fuck, this is amazing. And then Chuck did some different things with his voice, and to find out that it was a cover and it was a Judas Priest cover, which is a bit of a surprising thing to my small brain. Okay, and the last 2 items that I have here, I've got a bootleg and a DVD. So I have this bootleg, which I got off eBay for like $9 or something like that. So it's Leprosy and Individual Thought Patterns, both on the, which is kind of weird because like it's not even like they came out after each other or anything like that. So when you go inside, it's got Leprosy on the disc and then the Individual Thought Patterns booklet sleeve kind of like photo. But then when you open it up, there's just basically, it's fucking really weird, but I saw it was $9. I was like, that's fucking pretty cool, like whatever. It's like from Russia or some shit like that. There's all this Russian shit on there. And lastly, I got the Death by Metal DVD. So this is the documentary that came out a few years ago. It's got a nice booklet in there as well. Death by Metal, some liner notes and things like that. And it was really cool to see, I guess, behind the curtain. I think that because Chuck passed really before I was completely obsessed with them, learning about him vicariously through his music and these documentaries and like little YouTube clips and shit like that is kind of difficult, but I do love the man and I do love his band. Now this is the part that I really have not been looking forward to at all. I can't even like rank them. I can tell you what my favorite album by them is, and I don't think that it's any surprise, but my favorite album by them is Human. But when it comes to all their other albums, I reckon that they're pretty much all on par. You know what? This is what I'm gonna do. Human's my favorite. Symbolic is my least favorite. And all of these are equal. How's that? That's about as close as I'm gonna get to ranking death albums. I started writing an article for the Insert Review Here team. If you guys haven't followed those guys on Facebook, you definitely should. I do a lot of writing for them, and they've got a lot of great content. And Steve, the guy that runs it, is a fucking legend. He's also a huge Death fan, and we talk about Chuck quite a bit. and it gave me an ulcer. Like I stressed out about it quite hard. Like, I know that Human is my favorite album by them. I know that it's one of my top 10 albums of all time, maybe even top 5. That's an album that I probably could buy over and over again in all different kind of versions, and I would never ever regret it at all. And the thing is, Symbolic, I fucking love Symbolic. I think it is a fantastic album. It's probably all 6 of their albums are in my top 50 albums of all time. And that's the thing, like, it's kind of hard to talk about a band that you love so much and then point out which ones you don't like or which ones you like less than others. I would say that Symbolic is probably my least favorite because it's my least listened to. It's not the one that I grab for when I look at Death albums. What I'm going to do, because I kind of didn't really fucking rank them, I'm going to give you a song off each album that I think that you should check out if you have not heard Death. From Scream Bloody Gore, you're going to check out Zombie Ritual, track 2. From Leprosy, you are going to check out Pull the Plug, track 5. From Spiritual Healing, you are going to check out Low Life. From Human, you're going to check out See Through Dreams, one of the fucking best riffs I've ever heard, ever on this album, on that track, I should say. Individual Thought Patterns, you are going to check out The Philosopher. I already said it before. Symbolic, you are going to check out Zero Tolerance. And The Sound of Perseverance, I would say put on The Sound of Perseverance and just listen to it the whole way through. I think that it's an incredible note to end on when it comes to a career with Death. Obviously, Control Denied was the album that came out last from Chuck, but when it comes to Death, then that's it for him. Obviously, I don't own the live album on vinyl or CD or tape or anything like that. I also don't have the live DVD. There's a lot of things that I am missing, and I'm really looking forward to adding them to my collection. But, you know, it all takes money and it all takes time. What I'd like to know from you guys is, what's your favorite Death album? Are you able to rank them? Are you less of a pussy than I am? I just really can't put it in stone. Chuck Schuldiner, rest in peace. Happy birthday, my friend. I'm looking forward to meeting you in the abyss after all of this. And look, if you're still with me and you're still checking this out, I appreciate you spending your time with me. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure that you subscribe. As I said, I'm trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. If there's any albums or bands or anything like that you want me to rank that might be a little bit easier than Death, let me know down in the comments. I do want to get into ranking some stuff, and I'm going to try and be as brutal as possible, but it's really hard when it comes to one of your favorite bands of all time. Make sure that you follow me on social media at The Metal Hunter on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Drop me a comment down below. Ask me a question. I might do a Q&A in the next couple of weeks. All right, I've been Luke, The Metal Hunter. Catch you later. Bye.